Hey, I'm Arthur here. I'm now the director for Fei Yue Community Service Center, so overseeing centers that serve the low-income and the vulnerable families. I also conduct marriage preparation workshop together with my wife. I'm married for 19 years with 3 kids. They are 12, 11, and 8. In my counseling session with the couples and even between me and my wife, what I always realize after an argument is actually we don't argue about the issue. So what I want to say is this: what is complicated is actually not the issue. What is complicated is what we bring to the issue. For example, the emotion. So you always know that when the emotion is there, such as anger, disappointment, you lose control of yourself. The other thing that makes it complicated is the past that we bring along. So for example, if let's say a husband forgot to buy something that the wife has reminded him to buy, to the husband may think that I forgot to buy today, but tomorrow I can buy. But to the wife, the meaning is you do not love me and you have abandoned me. And all this comes from the stories that came from the background of that spouse, who maybe in her own family background, the father and mother used to quarrel and argue, or the father left home. So it is a story that we bring to the present that complicates the whole issue. So to answer your question, the complicated problem is what is inside of us, what cannot be seen, but what is outside, what is the factual situation. Actually, they are not that complicated if we really talk about that factually. I want to also be very realistic about how we can have a good argument, because at that point of time, all of us are very emotionally involved, like I shared just now. So the more realistic, you see, it depends on at that window of opportunity, whether me, if I have an argument with my wife, whether I can remember at that moment of time just to notice what? Notice my own emotion, notice her reaction. So let's say if she is getting louder and louder, I first notice, then the second thing that must happen, and that's the chance to go in, it is to pause. If you miss that chance, we are gone. All right, we can only do what we call service recovery later on. But at the moment when you remember to pause and breathe in, which we have some clients who manage to do that. So once you take a 2-second pause, the next thing you do is you describe what is happening. So for example, looks like we can't quite agree on this. So you get out from the contents, you go into the process and you say, looks like we cannot agree on our way of parenting. Then you go to facts. What we can't agree is, how much time we should give our children for the computer game. And I use it even for myself. And I always tell the couple, some of these are very theoretical when you listen to it, but our take is always, 10 times of argument. If you can use it about 4 or 5 times, it's really not bad. You don't expect yourself to do 10 times, every time you can remember to pause. I can't also. I want to be upfront with them. But when I do remember that window of opportunity, I'll go in. Secondly is this, we need to take 100% responsibility. And that means what always harms any couple is the blaming. How can I take 100% responsibility in the sense that even if it's not my fault, I can take responsibility over the reaction of my wife. So if my wife flare up, I take responsibility. What did I do that caused her to do that? Not that I'm wrong, but someone has to take the lead. And in most of the time, I'll tell the man to take the lead. Now, some men will think that it is not fair, but we men have the responsibility to take the lead so that our wife can come along with us and manage this space over here so that this space is clean, transparent, and always we don't sweep the dust under the carpet. We bring things up on the table, although it's difficult, but the way to go for it is to bring on the table so that we are frank, we are sincere with each other. Never easy to talk, and I want to always share with a couple, even myself, is some problems you cannot be solved until the end of your life. You just have to manage to cope with it, face it, and then deal with it in the most positive way. Most of us, including myself, will fall back to a pattern. How we argue is always a pattern that keeps repeating. So just in case you cannot stop, you have to go all the way to the end. What you need to do are 2 things for service recovery. One is remember to apologize. That means you need to close up. Don't pretend it's not there. So every time I ask couple, whenever you argue, what happened? Oh, next day, after 2 days, we talk to each other and then we don't talk back again, right? Assume that nothing has happened. So I advise them, always close up, have a closure by apologizing. What does apologize mean? First, I acknowledge the part that I'm in. Secondly, I also acknowledge because of my action, what has it caused, the emotional impact has caused you to experience. For example, you felt sad, you felt humiliated, or you felt disappointed. So I need to acknowledge that. So that's apology. We don't have to promise so far. Some people, when they apologize, they promise, I'm so sorry, I promise I don't do that. That is not enough. In fact, acknowledging what your spouse or your partner has experienced is more important than the promise you're going to give. So apology. Second thing you need to catch up is an issue that you argued about. So never pretend it's not there. Always go back and check it out and say, dear, no, Daddy, we talked about this. You need to talk about it again. Because there's some spouse who think that, whenever we argue, we finish it, he will not talk about it. And they got very disappointed. So go back, no matter how difficult it is. So these are two things that we need to do for the service recovery. Actually, there are more than 5 habits of love. One is, of course, how to really listen. 2 is how willing to affirm. Right? How do we validate? 3rd is share about yourself, especially some people who are introverted, even like myself. So I say, if you want to get married, learn how to share about yourself. The 4th point is be fully present. Be fully present is never an easy habit to practice. Sometimes you get distracted, but how do you come back to the space again? We're not going to make anyone guilty that sometimes we cannot be fully present, but be fully present is the best present, best gift we can give to our spouse. And the last one is do activities together. I look at myself, I know, for example, jogging is a good example. Sometimes when we want to jog, when you wake up in the morning, you don't feel like jogging, and you try to argue with yourself or bargain with yourself, I jog tomorrow. But once you ignore the thinking, you just go and jog. When you come back, you find yourself very refreshed. So couples relationship is the same thing. We cannot wait at home and hope things will happen. Once you start doing things together, you'll find that you get energized and you are more willing to do things with each other. So you have to find some things to do together. So that is the 5th habit of love. So what I find is that solutions don't drop from the air. We need to prepare for solutions to appear. So sometimes we think the argument is about the issue. It's actually not about the issue. It's about the atmosphere between me and my spouse. So I give examples. When some of us are in love, you realize that some small little mistakes made by our partner is okay for us. In fact, we say, never mind, you're late for 10 minutes, I'll still wait for you. 1 hour, I still wait for you. So that's the idea, because the atmosphere there is excellent. So likewise between husband and wife, we need to have a good atmosphere. What does good atmosphere means? It means the practice of the 5 habits that I shared. Once you have these 5 habits, whatever problems that come in, you're more motivated to solve. You're more positive to want to see the good out of the challenges. So that's what it provides. It doesn't bring you the solution. It's a process that helps you to find out what solutions might come along the way.